Welcome back, everyone, to Pod of Thrones. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer.
And we have a special guest on the line today, so let's just go ahead and introduce her right away. We have someone from the But Why Tho Podcast. Her name is Kate. She's pretty awesome, and she loves Game of Thrones. Say hi, Kate.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So why don't we introduce you real quick? Tell us a little bit about But Why Tho.
Okay, so But Why Tho Podcast is a podcast where me, myself, not me, myself, and I, that would be boring. Myself and my two co-hosts, Adrian and Matt, talk about a different thing in pop culture that people say matter every single week and ask the question, but why though? So we cover things, kind of how do I explain this? Their importance in society, their importance in history, culture, fandom. It can be as big as it revolutionized this generation of this genre, or it can be as small as, we just recorded an episode on the Backstreet Boys. Like, I just got done doing that, and now I'm here to talk about Game of Thrones. So we pretty much cover everything. We have episodes about the NFL. We have episodes about Game of Thrones. We have episodes about video games, comics, just pretty much anything pop culture we have an episode on.
Neat.
The Backstreet Boys, you say?
Yes.
I mean, I'll listen. That's fascinating, but I can't imagine that I would have anything to add to a conversation like that. I don't know anything about the Backstreet Boys. Except
neither
Wahlberg. No, that was New Kids. Wait,
no.
Kids. Backstreet. Oh boy, I don't even know that. I don't know who's in the Backstreet Boys. Whew. Do you, babe? Did you have posters?
Is he the Joey Fatone? I mean,
no, that's NSYNC. I know that one.
Oh gosh, that's NSYNC.
No, I don't know anything about Backstreet Boys.
Well, we're gonna have to listen then this weekend, and we'll find out. When do your new episodes come out? Do you have a regular schedule?
Out every single Wednesday at 6:30.
That's very regular of you. We hope to be that disciplined someday.
Yeah, I don't have time to set them at work, so it's usually just me trying to set them super early. But when we were moving and stuff like that, we didn't really have a schedule. It was like whenever I could get stuff edited.
Right.
That's usually how we work, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But now we're back to every Wednesday, early in the morning. Click into iTunes and we'll be there.
All right.
Excellent. Couple items I wanted to talk about first. Okay, so we mentioned this. We had the pregame show part 1. This is the pregame show part 2. In part 1, we mentioned that we were going to be on the Two Broads Talking Politics podcast. They wanted to do an episode of Game of Thrones and politics. That is up on the internets now. So if you go to your favorite podcasting program, probably whatever you're listening to this on, and type Two Broads Talking Politics, you can find them and us. So that's one thing.
Okay, what's the next?
The other thing was our Deathpool. I just wanted to talk about that real quick. The response is amazing. Thank you all for voting.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
There was just one thing I don't get. We got this amazing response. So many people are taking, it's a 30-question survey of who's going to live and who's going to die. Kate, have you done it yet? Have you made it to the website?
Not.
Okay, well, I'm sure you'll do it any second now. But
I have it open right now.
So it's like, I figured it would be so long because there's so many characters to talk about, and we still missed a couple, that it wouldn't get that big of a response. And it's amazing. We have tons of people responding, but the only thing that confuses me is at episode 100, we were trying to give away like $1,000 in cool Game of Thrones swag and prizes and collectibles and stuff. And it was like pulling teeth to get people to enter that giveaway contest.
Yet they'll answer a 30 question
But a 30 question survey, that's the thing I don't get. Have you run any contests, Kate? Have you ever done that?
We're running one right now. It's a giveaway for a copy of My Hero Academia and a Funko Pop.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How do I not know about that?
So popular in our house.
Did you mention it on your last podcast? Because I must have missed that one.
We did not mention it on our last podcast. We just started it. Actually, yesterday. Yeah.
So
that was my dog sneezing. Why are you in here sneezing, dog? Sorry. Yeah, so we're doing that. It is really hard to run stuff, and then you run something that you're like, oh, not that many people are gonna want this thing, and then it's overwhelming response.
Pretty amazing. Huh. Yeah. So anyway, look, episode 100, I was really just yanking my hair out going, why won't my audience enter? But you guys are awesome now. You're all rocking it. So thank you for participating in the Deathpool. If you haven't looked it up yet for the results, you should do that. But we'll be talking about it too on the air.
Who lives or dies?
Yeah. Right now, Cersei is still the front runner for dying.
And I just did the survey because I think it's easy, but I also think it's an easy survey to do because all of us have feelings about this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's not as it's much faster than, you don't really have to think about it. You're like, oh yeah, I know.
Well, some of the characters you do.
You do. You I mean, you have to ponder every now and then, like hot pie.
Yeah, I don't, that was Lore Master Kevin. I'm not.
You're not happy with that choice?
Well, it's not that. I like Hot Pie. He's wonderful. But he's on the survey, and Lore Master Kevin forgot Qyburn and Yara. Yeah. So I got to give him some shit for that. But, whatever.
We could have chimed in.
Hot Pie's wonderful. Well, I was just taking his lead. He's our lore master. What do you want from me? So, Kate, I was listening to your Game of Thrones episode, which was a while ago. Mm-hmm. But this, I really wanted to have you come on the show because one of the first things you were talking about as the Game of Thrones episode started was how you were a big fan and then you stopped watching it. And then the episode was about, you did start watching it again. But when you said on the show, your show, I stopped watching at season 5, episode 6, I said, I bet I know what episode that is.
Sansa's episode? Sansa's wedding night?
Yes. Isn't that funny?
Well, I mean, that's a jarring thing to watch.
It was a very polarizing
and we didn't even see
episode.
anything, and now it was very jarring.
And I think that was part of it. But I would like to hear, if you could tell our audience, since many of them probably haven't heard your show yet, but they might. But could you just give us a little recap about why you left Game of Thrones?
Yeah, so for me, I used to host watch parties for Game of Thrones, like in undergrad and everything like that, because I loved it. I loved it so much. I have all of the beers. I have all the beer bottles of the ones that they do specifically for each episode. I went to all the houses that Game of Thrones put on for South by. I loved it. And then I had thought about not watching it a couple of times because a lot of the use of rape. Like, it's actually one of the things that frustrates me about Jaime's character is Cersei's rape in the church, because I'm like, why? He would have been such a great character outside of that, and it was unnecessary. But ultimately, it was Sansa's wedding night and her rape by Ramsay Bolton that I couldn't watch it anymore. And it wasn't necessarily the act itself. Like, that was extremely jarring. I actually know, I found out that everybody that sits around me at work loves Game of Thrones. So we just had an entire Game of Thrones geek out session at work the other day. But I was actually not alone. Like, there were 2 other women who either stopped watching or refused to watch that episode, and just had their husband tell them what had happened the entire episode so that they didn't have to watch it. Wow. One of my biggest issues with it is that in that episode, it's about Theon's pain having to watch and not necessarily the trauma that Sansa is experiencing. And that bugs me a lot. Because me and the guys got into this really long discussion about, like, well, that's like in any sort of medieval time, that is what you would do to, like, that is equivalent to, like, cutting Theon's penis off, right? Like, it's a way that that it's an act of violence that is perpetrated against somebody in order to take away their agency and all that. And I get that and I understand that. But the problem for me was, one, the showrunners chose to do it. I understand some of their reasoning behind it, but it's not necessarily, like, you can't use that it was in the book excuse.
Right. It wasn't in the book. Yeah.
Yep. They actively chose to do that and put Sansa through that. But the biggest thing, like I said, is because it's about Theon's face and Theon's reaction and Theon's pain of having to see more of the trauma that he's bringing to the Starks. And it made me mad. It made me really, really mad. I was like, here Sansa is experienced the worst night of her life. and it's not about her. It's about Ramsay asserting dominance, and it's about Theon being punished even more, because the way it's even framed is Ramsay punishing Theon. And that just did not sit well with me at all.
You want to start,
do
babe?
we know if I haven't listened to what the writers have said about that scene, except that they didn't mean to, I don't know, make Sansa not important. I've heard them say that. I don't know if it's true or not, but the feeling that I got from I got that it was so horrific that they couldn't even show it. And they wanted to make Theon, they wanted to show how degraded he had become, that he can't even help her. He's so mentally fucked.
Which is certainly true. I mean, if he wasn't so mentally fucked, he could have stabbed Ramsay in the back while he was raping Sansa, because he's obviously distracted at that point, and saved the day, many days, as a matter of fact.
But I think they needed a witness there to show how horrific it was. Also,
I don't think I personally don't think
really,
that they did, because especially like even how like you guys are talking about it, it's still about Theon. It's all about Theon's character progression.
Well, yeah. I mean, it would be nice if Sansa didn't, maybe in that situation, need to be saved at all. Look, and
even if we leave it in, right? Like leave it in, don't take it out. Like not like Sansa shouldn't be put in that position. Like I actually think, and I say this on the episode, is as I've watched it through as a whole, I've seen the importance that act plays in her character arc.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated Sansa when I first started watching the series. I hated her with a passion of 1,000 suns.
Me too.
And now she's one of my favorite characters.
Right.
But I do think that like you can have that scene done and still understand the weight of it without showing anything. And not having Theon be there, because the act of having him there, then the entire conversation is like, okay, well, what did Sansa's rape do to Theon's character? How, like, and it changes, it stops being her moment of trauma and starts being more his moment of trauma. And it gets refocused later on where she comes out of it and she talks about it and it's recentered around her. But in that moment, to show something that is that triggering for people and that violent, and have it not even be the purpose of like the purpose not being attached to her in that scene, is the problem that I see. And I wouldn't necessarily, it's not saying that she's not important, but it's taking, as Ramsay is taking away her agency and power, the showrunners are also taking that away from her by making that trauma be somebody else's pain.
I get that.
I get it too. I think I've seen a lot of different interpretations of that scene. It certainly caused a lot of controversy. For me, it was always like they weren't gonna show it. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And then I didn't think it was about Theon so much as it was that Theon was our analog. And if we had watched it, if they hadn't panned the camera away, we'd probably look very similar to how Theon was looking at the time. I just thought he was our pain, not his own pain or not Sansa's pain. I just thought it was like, I don't know. He was taking one for us so that we didn't have to see it or something like that. But if they had just put him out of the room and then cut to black and we didn't see or hear anything, would that have been okay? Would that have been better if he hadn't been there as the forced witness?
If you think about it in terms of, so I'm a big horror fan. The stuff in horror that hits you the most a lot of the time is the stuff that you don't see. Because when you hear the sounds and you hear what's happening, your mind is going to put something worse on there. Always. Mm-hmm. It was a trope, not a trope, but it was a tactic that was used in early Hammer horror, or even like just early horror movies between like the 30s to early 50s. And it's something that is coming back with this launch of like new wave horror that's coming out, where you're using these slow burns and off camera things because our mind is going to make it harsher. So I think they could have just done the scene focused on a candle and still had us sit there and actually be Theon, actually just hearing it and knowing what is happening. And we don't necessarily need Theon to get that impact. Yeah, because I mean, like, because even though you said you didn't see it as Theon, you both did just say that you saw it as a way to show that Theon had become so mentally fucked that he couldn't do anything to help her. So
yeah, well, that's a part of it for sure. Yeah, it's so fucking pathetic. That's why I think he's going to survive the show, even though almost everybody that's taken our survey disagrees. I think he's just going to
that's a fair point.
Fail his way into survival. He's just too pathetic to kill.
That's a fair and agonizing point, but it's I voted that he would die because he just jumped off that boat in 7. But that's not that I could see that happening.
So here's my follow-up question then. When or what made you come back to the show after all that?
Oh gosh. Season 7.
You just couldn't stay away?
I couldn't stay away. I could not.
Luckily, we didn't have to witness anything like that. Nothing was as bad as that, again, I think, in the rest of the series.
They must have taken the feedback.
Yeah.
There's been less and less sex and sexual crimes.
Yeah, I could do with more sex.
I'm sorry.
Just not the rapey kind.
Yeah, well, and there's been a lot. Has there been any rape since then?
No, it's been all war.
No.
I mean, Gilly almost. She was under threat of rape. I think that was after Sansa, but never happened.
Oh no, I thought Gilly was before. Oh no, she's after.
Right, because they're at the Castle Black.
Then she rewards Sam, and he goes, "Oh." I think that's all he said, right? Oh,
precious.
So season 7 was coming around, and the hype was so big that you had to go back and watch the rest of 5 and 6, like binge it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Well, pretty much that, and it was also one of those things where, like, as I knew that it was gonna wrap up, it was one of I had to like weigh my thoughts about it, right? Mm-hmm. Like how did I feel about it? What, was this moment and the moments before it that it kind of like started to turn me off, were those greater than my need to see these stories finished? And then I had a lot of friends telling me about the power that like Sansa finds in season 6. And so I was like, okay, I'll give it another go. I started from episode number 1 because my friends were like, it gets better. Believe me, believe me, it gets better. Like, you don't see it again. It's fine. I was like, okay, I'll go to it and let's see if this actually like turns into something, if they can do something with Sansa after this. And so I started all the way from 1, fell in love with the show again, powered through that episode, and season 5. I mean, there are giant moments in season 5, like just that's a big ass season. Yeah. But then season 6, I was in like completely in love again, and I could see how when you see all of it in a linear fashion and binge it, or even just like you don't have long gaps, right? You have the next thing to go to. The story progression and the character progression for everybody is a lot better. And I also think what helped was knowing that Sansa was going to get her revenge. And nobody told me what the revenge was. So when I saw her feed Ramsay to the dogs, I lost my shit. And I was excited. I was so fucking excited. But it was one of those things where like I still do critique the show on that mark. And some of the other stuff that they've done. Like I said, I still think Cersei's rape in the church is really frustrating because I love Jaime as a character, but I don't want to love a character that rapes somebody. That's like that just sucks. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like when I look back on it as a whole, I think definitely that the showrunners took that feedback, or at least just honed in on other things. Because like we've seen women tortured since then, but it's not through rape, right? Like you have
Unella.
You have the Sand Snake. and you have like there are different ways to do that, and it proves that that doesn't have to be the one thing that you do. Because I don't mind violence. Like that's why I watch the show, right? Like
you better not mind violence.
I was extremely pissed when Oberyn got his head smashed in because Oberyn Martell deserved so much better. But like there are just specific types of violence, and especially violence that isn't warranted, that I don't care for. But I think the show has since redeemed themselves, and I'm so happy I went through and watched it and finished it and watched 7 live. What I was doing was I would actually live tweet episode 7 or season 7, and then I would watch the episode again to find anything that I had missed while live tweeting. So,
which is
I'm
easy
ready
to do.
for season. Yeah. I'm finishing up my rewatch tomorrow, but I've just finished the Battle of the Bastards episode. And I forgot how good a fucking episode it is for Sansa. It's such a good episode.
I have someone at work who is just watching, probably tonight or tomorrow, the Battle of the Bastards for the first time. He had been away from Game of Thrones for a long time and is now catching up. I'm just excited for him more than anything. I want to feel that
episode
again. Yeah. Rewatching it's great, but it's not as good as the first time. Especially the dogs. My God.
We should rewatch that one.
Just that episode? Battle of the Bastards? Mm-hmm. Hey, we got a little time this weekend before season 8 starts. We could do it.
Okay.
All right.
I feel like Ramsay should have suffered more, honestly. I think that was just too quick of a death for him after all of the seasons that we had to watch.
I don't know if it was that quick, though.
That was really hard, too. That all of whatever seasons Theon's torture was.
You hated that.
I hated that. I couldn't watch it. I would turn away. I couldn't watch. It was too much for me.
We've watched the whole series, I think, 3 times, and those rewatches, you had a real hard time with Theon.
Yeah.
But, okay. So here's a question. Jaime. You were talking about Jaime, and it's been hard to like him anymore since he raped Cersei in the Great Sept. But when we first started watching Game of Thrones, which was admittedly, I think, 4 seasons in that we got around to finding HBO, Jennifer here almost didn't want to keep watching after the first episode because it ended with Jaime pushing a little boy out the window.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I wonder how many people that did turn off, because it's pretty awful, especially if you think, well, that kid's dead now. And it turns out he's not, but we didn't know that then. We have so many awful things. How has anything else ever made you rethink? Obviously not as bad as actually quitting the show, but have you had to rethink that? And Theon losing his whole package downstairs. I mean,
Theon was hard. Theon was definitely really hard. The kid thing didn't bother me. I don't know why. I guess I don't have, but that's actually I listened to another horror podcast, and the woman on there, she refuses to do any horror that has kids in it, regardless if anything bad happens to them or anything like that, because she just can't watch it as a mom. So I totally get that and understand that. I would say Theon is probably, honestly, any of the stuff that Ramsay does is so damn hard to watch. So I do agree with you that he should. We actually had this conversation at work. He deserved a longer death. Whether he was flayed and then fed to the dogs, or partially flayed and then fed to the dogs, there should have been more pain.
Mm-hmm. There should have been a penis cutting, or
yes.
At least, and a raping.
Well, who's gonna rape him? Jeez, gross.
Somebody. Yeah. I don't know. A dog.
I think ultimately, one of the things that I do come back to is there's something extremely depowering of having animals that he was in control of then eat him. That I think, at least for me, makes it it still has that big sigh of relief and revenge feeling, because for him it's this ultimate loss of power of probably the number one thing he could control. He could control loyal dogs, and he got eaten by them. But
and the only reason they were loyal to them was because he was always starving them, and then he would feed them with whatever he wanted them to chase down and eat.
Yep. But I also think too, I think it had to be quick because long form deaths is Cersei's domain, and you still have to maintain like the other characters.
Well, Sansa's new to revenge.
That's
like
fair.
that was her first kill.
That's true.
Right?
Okay. All
so
right.
she was being as creative as she could. I think,
well,
creatively speaking, she did a good job.
And she probably doesn't have the twisted thoughts that Ramsay.
Yeah, thankfully.
Even so.
I will say this, the best revenge moment for me at least is still Arya feeding Walder Frey his kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Very similar idea. Fed to the dogs, fed your own kids.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I see a theme here.
Maybe the Starks are Jewish. We like to feed people. Maybe. No. All right. So Sansa is now your favorite character.
One of my favorites, but yes.
All right. Well, who are your front runners? Who do you want to see be victorious? Not necessarily on the throne, but who are you rooting for as we go into season 8?
Tyrion, Arya, Sansa, and Tormund, just because I love that man. Although I think he might be dead after the wall implosion last season, because he was right there. So that bothers me.
We're pretty sure we saw him in the trailer.
Okay, I haven't watched any of the trailers at all.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm not a huge spoiler person. I run a media website. Like, I had to give for spoilers.
Fair enough. Do you think Tormund and Brienne will get together?
I want them to, but I don't think they will. I really want them to. I just love how he looks at her. Like, I love you. I love you're a beautiful woman. And it makes me like so happy because I know like Brienne's talked about never experiencing that. And so to see Tormund Giantsbane just like in absolute love with her makes me really happy, especially because, and this is kind of just like a side note, is like a lot of the times women of Brienne's body type, muscular women, anybody who doesn't fit like that, like that standard beauty standard don't get to be love interest or don't get to be looked at that way. So it like seeing Tormund look at her that way, I'm like, oh my God, I ship y'all so hard. I don't think they will, but I they are like my number one ship because all the other ones are dead. So
what about Arya and Gendry or Gendry? We don't know.
So I just Arya's a little psychopath, and I can't ship her with anyone at least until her kill list is done.
All right, fair enough.
But yeah, no, those are my top characters. It was Dany for a while, but she just made stupid decisions last season, and I cannot deal with that.
Oh, well, let's get into that. Dany's downfall. How come? What were her stupid decisions?
She is not listening to people, or rather she's listening to the wrong people. I think that Dany's come into this place where she's very much looking for yes men, or yes women. And I think that ultimately when it comes down to it, I think her biggest issue is that she is asking people things with her mind already made up and then acting on it, or just trying to find the person who does agree with her. And I think that is one of the biggest issues that I had with her last season.
Do you think that there's a chance she might snap and turn into the villain? That's a theory that's out there.
I mean, everybody except Jon is pretty villainous, or like has that ability to turn that way. I guess Jon and Sansa have like, those are the only two people I could see not turning into a villain. I think everybody else like that's in a powerful position can very easily do that. I don't think she would be Cersei level, but I definitely think she has that ability.
Well, she could start saying burn them all.
Right.
Yeah,
she could snap.
Oh, go ahead.
I just said she could snap.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, if she loses another dragon, that would definitely push her.
Ooh, we should talk about that theory. So on our last episode, Jennifer was running down a website that had a bunch of fan theories, and we were pretty much just throwing popcorn at all of them, just saying, boo, because we thought they were stupid. But one of them actually wound up intriguing me when I re-listened back to it, which was Dany becomes the Night Queen. Have you heard this one?
No.
And I actually don't even know what it says on the website Jennifer had. Do you still have that website up?
No.
Oh, are you looking for it right now?
No.
Oh, you're doing something. Okay. I thought you were pulling something up. But I thought about the concept of why would Dany become the Night Queen? And then I thought, well, maybe if she loses her dragons and they all become zombie dragons, she might do whatever it takes to be reunited with her kids, which is not an unheard of thing for moms to do, especially in dramatic fiction. So
That's actually pretty good.
She could give herself over to the Night King and then sort of save the world, but sacrifice herself in the process, maybe, if she can get him to go back north.
Maybe that's what he's coming for, a bride. A bride and a family.
Maybe. We don't know what he wants because he won't talk to us.
Yeah.
Do you think he has a specific mission, or is it just the destruction of all life?
I think it's a destruction of all men.
Men?
Right? Or humans.
Oh,
not
humans,
necessarily
okay.
men.
Hey.
Humans. No. The reason I say men is because I just watched the episode where earlier today where the children of the forest are talking about how they created the Night King, and essentially they did it to protect them from men because they were coming into their territory, destroying their secret places, tearing down their trees, really kind of breaking their way of life. So I could easily just see it being one of those things of like, oh, humanity's gotten too big for itself. Here is the naturalizing force. I know a lot of people have also, the other theory that I've heard is that this is just cyclical. That the Night King is just a peg in this cycle, right? Like you have long summers and then you have a long winter, and the Night King, and I've heard them talk about how the Night King is integral to that. And that the actual like cycling of the seasons is way longer than people actually think of it. So that is probably one of the ones that I find extremely intriguing. Just this idea that he's kind of like this, either like omnipotent force, or like just he's not necessarily evil so much as he's just going to add a balance to things that are happening, and then everything will progress again, and then he'll come back again and push it back, and that type of stuff.
That's interesting. That could feed into something that came up on the Two Broads Talking Politics show, where they were talking about a theory, not so much a theory, but more of an interpretation, I guess, that the Night King and his forces represent climate change, or are analogous to that, and the effects of man ruining the earth, and then he's coming to sort of sweep it all away, like Mother Nature gone crazy. So in that theory, would the Night King actually wipe out most of humanity, and then sort of history resets?
Thanos it? I don't know.
Because I mean, it feels like the Matrix, right? Like Neo gets to the end and he realizes that this has happened 1,000 times before, or the Dark Tower, even, where Roland finds out that he's actually done this a bunch of times before. That would be fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Yeah, I think that's where the theory really puts it. I kind of like when I heard that, because I heard it at work during our little geek session, and part of me just felt like, well, maybe the wall wasn't always that like, instead of thinking the wall was as something that is far out, like maybe it just increasingly comes closer and closer in. Like the north moves farther south as it goes, and like maybe like it just like as things cycle, he pushes more and more in. Which I don't know if that even makes any sense, but I thought it was at least intriguing. I tend to not do fan theories a whole bunch, but I have found like the Game of Thrones ones are just really fun to listen to sometimes.
Yeah, it's fun to see where people think it might go.
Some of them have been right.
Mm-hmm.
R plus L equals J was always a fan theory, and it got confirmed because people dive so deep into every little word that George R. R. Martin says or writes or says that they're just trying to pull out clues. I mean, there's a whole thing that probably will never be resolved because it's probably utter nonsense, but I still love it, of like Lord Varys being the Mer King of the oceans. Remember that one?
That was a good one.
Just because of like a couple things Varys has said here and there. It just takes like a couple words. And then the fact that he seems to get around really fast from continent to continent, that maybe feeds it a little bit.
I mean, those are just pacing issues.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of those with travel in this show, but we forgive it because it's cinematic.
I don't think that it was that bad in the beginning of the show. It was just really bad last season.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, last season, especially with Dany getting there with the dragons on time.
Yeah, or even just them sitting on the little ice block. Like, how are you all not dead yet? What is happening?
And how long can the dragons fly, like, without stopping? Can they fly for days or months?
But it couldn't have been days or months. It was like 2 hours.
Right.
Or maybe like 6 hours.
It's like Palm Springs to Orange County or...
Well, in the span of what would appear to be an evening, Gendry ran back to the wall after they'd been hiking for what felt like hours. He ran back to the wall. They wrote a letter, which takes time because there's no typewriters, right? So they wrote a letter. Yeah. They got a raven, which flew all the way down to Dragonstone. Mm-hmm. And then Dany had to think about it, process, and get on her dragons and fly away. And then got there in time. In time.
Within 24 hours.
Yeah. It was a little crazy.
Yep.
So I think they've just given up on that aspect of it, right?
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, like, I forgive it.
There's got to
give me my long episodes. I'm fine.
They can't show them traveling, but yet.
Right. Because that's boring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it was jarring for people, though, because, like, for a while they did show them traveling. Like, for a good part of the show, they definitely did show them traveling and stuff. And so for it to go from showing that to not, now, like, it was a low episode season order, and they're closing it, so I definitely understand, like, why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
Brienne and Jaime.
Brienne and Jaime, right. Sansa and Baelish, like, getting from place to place took them, like, a whole season to get from... the Vale to Winterfell, basically, with a lot of stuff in the middle.
Or King's Landing to the Vale.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, traveling was a big part of the first seasons. Mm-hmm. Arya and the Hound. Yep. Oh, I can't wait till they reunite. It's gonna be a good reunion, right? Will Arya forgive him? I hope.
No.
She'll run up to him and she'll hug him with all of her might, and she will just burst down crying for the first time in her life.
And then she'll stab him.
Well, she might stab
and then she'll stab him.
I thought that might be where you were going with that.
I hadn't thought past that point. It's just
Can Arya forgive? Because the Hound didn't really do anything that bad, did he?
Killed her best friend.
Wait, who? The butcher's boy?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's why he was on the list.
Maybe he really didn't. We didn't see him kill him. Maybe he really didn't.
Well, no, he admitted
said he
it.
did.
He said
That's
he
right.
ran down the boy.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe he didn't.
We're trying. Jaime didn't really push Bran out the door. It was just a slippery window ledge.
And he didn't really rape Cersei in the church.
Well, some would say he didn't really rape Cersei at the church, but I don't think that's a very good argument.
Oh, terrible argument.
Okay, so how's Jaime doing in your book now? Has he redeemed himself yet?
This is the thing. If he hadn't raped Cersei, he would have fully redeemed himself from the terrible stuff and the lack of honor that he had in the beginning seasons. Like, Jaime as a character has a phenomenal arc. But I can't get over the damn rape. Like, it's for me, it just sucks. Because I actually think he has one of the largest character growths of anyone in the series, outside of that. So
I think that they're trying to show that it's Cersei that makes Jaime terrible, and that is all.
Oh yeah.
That's otherwise without Cersei, he would be a wonderful human being.
But this is the thing, and this is my problem with him raping her, is that because he rapes her, that is the one action that he can't blame on Cersei. And
she did say no.
That is the problem. because every other action, like, I completely agree with you. That's definitely what they're doing, and they've done a really good job about it. But when you look at the bad things that he's done, that was not, like, he raped her. She resisted the entire time. That was not her fault.
I wonder, I don't think she has any more feelings for Jaime at all.
No.
She's just using him at this point.
Right. I think after that.
At that point?
Yeah, right. I think that was a really big turning point for her as far as her. Not that that love was ever equal. He definitely loved her more than she just doesn't know how to love. But
yeah,
I think that was it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because I think with each child that died, that was a piece of her love. And with him doing that, I think that also killed that too. Like, that was when Jaime kind of like died for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she probably blames him for Myrcella. She blames Tyrion too.
Definitely.
Tyrion sent Myrcella away, and then Jaime went to go get her. And if he told the whole story of what happened, like, he didn't protect her at the moment that, he should have seen something fishy going on, I guess, or something. Yeah. So, but is Cersei pregnant? This is something we've talked about a lot on this show. What's your take, Kate?
I don't think so.
No? She's just making it up?
I don't think so. I think she's making it up because Cersei is, like, I totally get why people hate her. I don't particularly like her either, but she is somebody who plays the game better than the majority of people who have tried. And I just think it's hard to believe anything Cersei says, because Cersei is out for Cersei. She's no longer out for the Lannisters. She's no longer out for her and Jaime. It is just Cersei, and she's going to do what she needs to do to manipulate and keep people by her side until she's done with them. And I think it's manipulation.
But then that didn't even work with Jaime.
Yeah, no, it didn't. But I still think I still don't think she's pregnant.
Is she?
I don't think she's pregnant.
Is Cersei out for her own power, or is she just out for revenge now?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah? She actually wants the power still?
I think she still wants the power, because at the end of the day, if she doesn't want the power, she has to live with the guilt that she essentially got her children all killed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
And if she at least gets the power, she can, it's a twisted justification for it.
Yeah.
Food for thought.
I can't wait to see. It's going to be so, I have a feeling there's going to be some pretty big twists that we didn't see coming. I'm hoping.
I'm sticking, I'm sticking with my Arya takes the throne theory. Who's your top pick for the throne, babe? Is it Dany and Jon?
No, it's
Sansa.
Sansa, right?
You think Sansa?
And I think that Sansa actually she has the potential to be a villain.
Yeah.
She showed a little sign of that. Now, some of it was quote unquote acting with the whole plan with Baelish.
Right.
I don't love how all that played out because they were too good at acting, Sansa especially. But she did show a certain cold deviousness.
Right. I can see her turning. She thinks it's going to be for the good, but I can see her becoming some kind of, I don't know, dictator.
No, I mean, yeah, I think she can easily turn, but I also think that this is kind of one of the themes that I've seen is, as much as Jon is the least Stark, right? He is more Ned Stark's son than any of the Starks turned out to be. When it comes to actions and what they do. And I guess that's not really fair for Bran. Or Rickon, who just can't run in a zigzag. But
yeah, he does not know how to zag. I mean, that's Ned's fault. That's someone's fault. Ned robbed someone. They should have taught him how to run,
how to dodge an arrow,
how to do anything.
But I think ultimately Jon is the most Ned out of all of the Stark children, which I actually didn't like the Starks for the longest time because I think they're stupid.
Yep.
They are.
That's their thing.
Ding, ding, ding.
Bad decisions.
And dumb and stop trusting people. But I think that when it comes down to it, I think because of what Sansa went through, she learned what to do in the world, and I think because of what Arya went through, she learned what to do in the world. And I think when they did that, they chose to turn away from Ned's personality, or the Stark personality. And I think for Jon, no matter what he's gone through, that has centered him, and he's always turned to it. And I think it's because he doesn't take it for granted what Ned did for him. But I also think my theory is that Dany is going to kill Jon.
What? Why?
Because he's a threat to the throne.
Oh shit! He's the natural heir at this point, right?
Yeah.
He's boy, yeah.
Yep.
But if they marry,
but what?
If they marry, then.
But him still being alive is a threat to it, and the fact that a lot of the people in Westeros aren't going to bow to a queen if there's a king right there.
But that's a very that would be a big villain turn for Dany, because that's a very Ramsay Bolton way to think. That's why he had his dogs eat a baby.
I mean, is it a Ramsay Bolton way to think, or is it a way all of the monarchs have thought in this entire show?
Well, I mean, it's also a Joffrey way to think, for sure.
It's a Joffrey way to think. It's a Cersei way to think. It's a Euron way to think. It's ultimately it's an Ilaria way to think. It is like every single person in the show, for the most part, that has made bids for the throne have thought that way. It isn't just like this unthinkable thing, because he isn't a baby. There's a difference between feeding a baby to dogs and killing a full-grown man who commands an army in the North, has recognition in the North, and will never have the claim to that land that you will have. And just by the patriarchal systems, automatically be seen as more legitimate than you. And then you actually throw in the legitimacy claim. He's a very big threat to her. It's a smart way to think.
Yeah.
But what if she's pregnant with his baby?
She'll probably still kill him.
And just keep the baby.
Yeah.
I mean, I could actually see that. I mean, if we're talking about Dany taking a turn, first she'll finally be able to have a human baby. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, she'd keep it.
And then she'll move to the Vale, and then at the very end of the show, we're going to see her sitting on the throne with her 8-year-old kid nursing.
The old fast forward scene, yeah. Oh, Robin Aaron. Is Robin Aaron going to show up in the final season? I feel like...
I think he needs to.
He has to, right? Because who's commanding the Vale now that Baelish is dead?
Lord...
Royce. There's Lord Royce, yeah, but he's just a lord. Robin Aaron. Oh, man. That's a boy with some issues.
Not even a player in this area either.
No, he's not, but I would love to see him again.
Grown up a little.
Yeah.
What if he like has spent these last couple years and he comes out like all buff, like he transformed in an 80s movie, except we didn't see the training montage. Like he gets all buff and he's wearing like a sharp suit of armor.
Oh, he's all handsome.
Hello, Sansa. I'm here to lead your armies for you. Huh?
And I still can't shoot a bow and arrow. Yeah, no, I actually think when it comes to all the theories, I think Sansa probably has. I don't think Arya would want the throne. Ultimately,
no, not at all.
No, I don't think she wants it. I just think she'll end up there because she'll be wearing Cersei's face. Everyone that listens to the show regularly has heard me say this a bunch of times, but I think she'll wind up wearing Cersei's face.
So I actually just saw somebody's prediction that I really like is that they said that they think Arya is going to kill Cersei with Catelyn Stark's face.
Catelyn's face? Where would she get Catelyn's face?
I don't know.
Okay.
That is just what they said. And I like the idea.
She died
so long ago.
Yeah, while Arya was in Bravos.
Who?
I know, but I still want it.
Well, yeah. Well,
I still want
wherever
it.
that was.
Well, Arya was there. It was at the Twins, and Arya had just arrived with the Hound. The Hound saved her. That was the first time the Hound saved her.
That's right.
He's such a good guy deep down inside. Really
He
deep.
is.
Really deep down
He's
inside.
still gonna get hit, or still gonna get killed.
I love him.
Well, who's going to kill the Hound? Just
He's going to
the forces
die
of
trying
evil?
to save Arya.
Oh, Arya gets into trouble with the Mountain, then the Hound steps in to save her.
Or Sansa. I did read another fan theory that said that the Hound and Sansa have some kind of stronger relationship than we realized, but probably not.
Well, he used to have a crush on her for sure.
A little bit. She was his little bird.
And he saved her from being
Maybe he'll save
horribly
her
raped
again.
once.
Or maybe he'll
It was
save them
just
both.
creepy. The Hound's interaction with Sansa were so creepy.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but he did save her from being raped.
He did, but it was still
Really
he
did.
was still creepy. That doesn't eliminate the creepiness that
No,
he has.
I'm not saying eliminate because he obviously he was there. He went home that night and he was looking for a reward, right? Like he was hoping Sansa would be like my hero. But at least with Arya, it was always a fatherly relationship.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
entirely.
He would never creeped out on her.
Yeah, no, I really love the Hound and Arya's arc. I really, really loved it.
God, it would be so amazing to have them together again.
Yeah.
I guess it'll probably happen.
Yeah, it must.
I mean, I could easily see it too. I just think Arya has to complete her kill list. I don't see her not letting that be done, given how headstrong she is.
Yeah, but
So I can see her like having an awesome buddy cop time with the Hound, and then finally realizing that he has to die and just like doing it.
if he's the last one on the list.
is Sansa on the
Yeah.
list? She was on the
Sansa?
list, wasn't she?
On Arya's list? No.
Because she watched Joffrey. She watched, remember she hated her for so long because she thought that
Well, yeah,
she
hated her, but she wasn't on the list.
she wasn't on the list.
She wasn't going to murder her sister. She just wanted to slap her sister around a little bit. You could go get
God,
our
I hated
go get our
Sansa.
Mountain Dew can.
I did too. She was the worst. The little snivelly, oh, I love Joffrey.
She was terrible. She was stupid, and ugh.
She sure can make a dress.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
she
she
can.
can. Especially the little Wolfie bit.
That was that season 7? I don't know.
Season 6.
Season 6, right.
Right, at Battle of the Bastards.
She had the very cool dresses.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so who's going to be on the throne then? What's your final word on that, Kate?
Sansa. Just gonna go with Sansa.
You're going to go with Sansa? You
I
don't
think
sa-
Tyrion deserves the throne,
Okay.
but I think he's gonna die.
Oh, that's a big statement. He's a fan favorite.
Yeah. He's one of my favorites. But I still think he's gonna die. I actually think the first episode of this last season, somebody that is a fan favorite is gonna die.
Yeah, I'm bracing myself for it. I cannot predict who, but they're got to kill some ones in every episode to narrow this down.
Yeah, and it has to be a big impact too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I do want to see the Onion Knight have a badass death though.
Yeah, I think we agree he's going to die. We just hope he dies well.
yeah.
Did we have him on the list?
Yeah, he's on the list.
Oh,
Yep.
good.
So Davos Seaworth,
That's
the
right,
Onion
that's
Knight. Yeah, I think you kept forgetting his name.
No, I know Davos is his name. I just,
The Onion Knight part. Yeah,
the Onion
that's
Knight confuses me sometimes.
Well, gee, Kate, I mean, this has been a fantastic conversation. I think you'll have to come back sometime, maybe
Yeah.
after the season. We're probably going to have a long series of like decompression episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you should come back and tell us how you're handling whatever nightmare atrocities have gone on.
Yeah, what is your self-care routine for dealing with
Mm-hmm.
the trauma Game of Thrones is putting you through?
Well, watch something funny. We recommend Parks and Rec. That's a good one. Or Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Mhm.
Those will make you laugh.
This is good.
Oh, we recently discovered something that's kind of funny and just so weird on Netflix, Russian Doll. Have you heard of
Ooh,
this
yeah,
one?
that's on my queue. I haven't watched it yet.
It's
It's so weird.
intriguing.
And it's from Amy Poehler, of all people.
Really?
You would not.
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
She's one of the executive producers. Like she's behind the creative team that made this bizarre time travel Groundhog Day comedy
Yes.
drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so you need to watch that. Give it a high recommendation.
Awesome. That
But
sounds really good.
It's also kind of a mind fuck, so I don't know if it's a great decompression show, but it's one of our new favorites. Or if you like blood and comedy, the Santa Clarita Diet Season 3 just came out.
I have binged all of that, and my review is up on our site for it.
Oh.
Oh, okay. So here we go. Your site. We talked about your podcast before. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so I run, I founded and I am the editor-in-chief of But Why Tho Podcast.com. We are But Why Tho geek community. We have everything on our site from video game reviews, movie reviews, television reviews, and recaps, cosplay, a lot of convention coverage. We're going everywhere. We have people going to E3, SDCC coming up, as well as AwesomeCon. And yeah, we're a place that, as a site, our number one goal and pillar is to make sure that we're representative of the multitude of experiences that exist in fandom, in pop culture, and ultimately geekdom by just really letting people write what they want to write. And we have a whole bunch of think pieces up on the site. We have comic reviews that come out throughout the entire week. All of our DC stuff comes out on Wednesdays, though. Yeah, we do a lot. I feel like it's easier to explain the podcast, but and we're a podcast network too.
Right, more than one podcast. How many shows?
Yep, we have 10 shows on the network right now.
Wow.
Or 11 actually. We just added another one.
That's right. I saw an announcement. Tell us about that one. It sounded pretty cool.
So it is in its first episode. Their little mini podcast is called Accessibility Beyond the Trend, where the host, Dan, talks about different topics of accessibility in gaming as they come up in games that he plays or as they come up within the gaming community.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen commercials for like new. I think Xbox was just coming out with new controllers and stuff, and I think that's fantastic that there's finally more. Someone's actually thinking about that.
Yeah,
actually,
nice. The cool thing about the new Xbox controller, the adaptive controller that they have, is they have offered it to multiple companies. Like they are not putting any bar on it. They're more than willing to license it out and have it free forever, not free, but like have other companies use the tech as opposed to putting it behind a Microsoft wall like they've done with all their other other stuff. It's compatible with computers. It's moving to be compatible with other systems, except for Sony, because Sony is awful and refuses to accept any sort of cross-platform anything.
Right. That's not Microsoft's fault.
Yeah, it's not Microsoft's fault, but they're doing a lot, and they have it as an extremely reasonable price point. The average controller now costs about between $64 and $70. The adaptive controller comes in at about $90. So I know controllers are really expensive. That's not cheap by any means.
Right.
But in comparison to existing controllers on the market, it is not outrageously priced over, and they're still looking at ways to make it a lot cheaper. So Microsoft's doing a lot in accessibility, and it's one of the reasons I'm literally every type of nerd you can think of. I game a lot, so we're really happy to have Dan on our network talking about gaming, and specifically from his perspective as a disabled gamer. So
very cool.
You guys are doing great work.
Yeah.
I hope you keep it up. You're almost at episode 100 of But Why Tho Podcast.
Yeah.
And you're about to do an episode on the Backstreet Boys. So, of course, we're going to listen to that because that sounds just so bizarre and fascinating.
Yep. And there are reasons. I brought the facts as to why they're better than NSYNC. Thanks very much.
Okay. I can't wait to hear it. And then finally, we can find you on Twitter. Say it one more time.
You can find me on Twitter at @ohmymithrandir. If you know what Mithrandir means, I will give you a gold star or a gold emoji or whatever.
I'm pretty sure it's Gandalf's name, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
It means the Grey Wanderer.
There you go. And then at But Why Tho PC for the podcast network.
At But Why Tho PC on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're pretty much on every social media platform as / at But Why Tho PC.
Okay.
And then you can find the website at butwhythopodcast.com.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks again, Kate. You have been an awesome guest, and I really hope we talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun, and Matt doesn't watch Game of Thrones, so I need people to talk to. So that's great.
Tell him that we said boo. Or shame. Should ring a bell and shame him.
I wish I had my bell.
Oh, yeah. I used to have one. Used to have a shame bell. Oh, well, we moved. It happens. All right. Take care, Kate.
Awesome. Thank you.